Stephanie Miller is joined by a former FBI agent to talk about Trump's dangerous recent rhetoric, as well as a missing Russian intel folder. Here's Stephanie.
Oh, hi. Even your handsomeness could not calm me yesterday when I saw you on TV, Frank. You are exactly the right level of hair on fire about this missing Russian intel. I think
I was anything but calm. I've pretty much lost it at this point.
Yeah. The story about it, a former assistant director for counterintelligence at the FBI, that's you, suggested there's a real possibility of Russian intelligence files that went missing near the end of Trump's presidency could have ended up in Russian hands. It seems quite likely that's where it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that sometimes the best way to commit a crime is in plain sight. And that is really what Trump was trying to do by ordering declassify this entire binder. And what better way to get into the hands of the adversary, or in Trump's case, BFF?
Yes.
The actual sources and methods that we have against the Russians. So if people are confused about raw and unredacted, what we're talking about is this version that's missing. This is prior to anyone combing through it and scrubbing it for anything that is singular in nature, anything that could tell Russian intelligence, oh, yeah, that conversation on that date happened in this room in the Kremlin. So that means either the guy I was talking to or the room itself is compromised, right? A 10-inch binder full of that kind of stuff that simply gives away how we know what the Russians are doing.
And by the way, 10 inches, that has both length and...
Stephanie!
Stop it. Well, people think it's like a folder like this. Right, Frank? Sorry, I didn't mean to make a D joke right to your face, but my point is...
Stephanie, when it comes to classified, size does not matter.
I lured him into my dirty trap.
Rather, it's all about the quality.
But I love the reporting just on your appearance yesterday. A clearly distressed Frank Figliuzzi admitted he wants to know exactly how the DOJ is handling the investigation into the missing 10-inch binder that contained raw intelligence. Thank you. Those of us that aren't professionals, but I think you were asking some of the same questions. Is Jack Smith on this? Is this part of a new investigation? How is it that Senate and Republicans knew this 2 years ago? They were briefed on this.
Yeah, I'm going to have a column out today on MSNBC Daily, really demanding that we learn of investigation into the binder. So there's some good news here in that we know from the reporting, originally from CNN, that the Senate intelligence community was briefed on this about a year ago. So it's actually good news, bad news. This thing's been missing for what, 2-3 years now? But as recently as a year ago, it appears there was a briefing on that it's still missing to the Senate Intelligence Committee. What does that tell me as someone who I have personally briefed the Senate Intelligence Committee? What triggers a briefing to Senate Intel other than routine briefings? The loss or compromise of a significant piece of intelligence. So that's bad news. The good news is you don't go and brief the Senate Intel Committee without a plan, because inevitably they're going to say to you, hey, what are you doing about this? And the likely and desired response is, we're investigating the hell out of it. Right? So my gut tells me there is an investigation into this. And has it rolled into Jack Smith's documents case? Probably not, because that's all about Mar-a-Lago. Probably a separate case, may or may not have anything to do with Jack Smith, but clearly we have a mishandling case at a minimum. But I think it's being worked. And I think Meadows, if he hasn't been questioned already, he absolutely will be questioned. I even raised the question of whether there's enough yet for a search warrant 3 years after the fact, of Meadows' properties. Now, I do know, the armchair lawyers out there are going to remind me that you need two things for a search warrant. You need to say there's been a crime committed, but you also, and yes, that's happened here, but you also need to say the place we want to search is where the evidence of the crime is. And that's up to investigators to figure out what in the hell Meadows did with it. Remember, 2 people have told us Meadows was last seen with it: Cassidy Hutchinson
and Trump,
and Donald Trump himself.
Yeah, it's all sort of stunning. Plus, that we have reporting in the past that Meadows has burned stuff. So Frank, I guess my question would be, what if he's destroyed it? What if it has already been given or sold to Russia? I mean, is there no copies of these things? Like, what does this mean? It's just missing?
Yeah. So, no, yeah. So absolutely, the originals are sitting with the DNI or the CIA. That's not a worry that we've lost that reporting, because really the binder was just a combination, right, of all reporting related to Russia interfering with the campaign. And I also think a couple of, if we want to look for any bright spot here, is there were people around Trump, like Pat Cipollini, the White House counsel, who were really trying hard to do the right thing. They were trying to talk him out of declassifying this. And they kept going to DOJ and saying, hey, help us, please, God. He wants this whole thing out tomorrow. And, we want to get this right. So, kudos to Cipollone. But then you had Trump demanding, bring it to the White House, bring it to the White House. So, in other words, it got stuck Meadows wanted it in Cassidy Hutchinson's desk drawer, not in a safe. The other thing I got to tell you that this tells us is if we needed a reminder, in another Trump administration, this is a man who clearly is prone to using secret intel for his own benefit and against his enemies. That's what this is about. Don't forget, this is a guy who gave up sensitive classified information in the Oval Office while meeting with high-ranking Russian officials. And that information came from a U.S. ally, as, by the way, the binder reportedly contained NATO-allied intelligence report.
Right. So, Frank, as a layperson, obviously, if this proved that Trump Russia's a hoax, he would have released this, right? I mean, clearly, again, I'm a layperson, I'm not an FBI agent, but it appears to me that, the reason he wants this gone missing because it confirms exactly probably what's in the Mueller report and the Senate intelligence report.
I think that's another thing that's going on here is we keep hearing the references in the binder about Pete Strzok and Lisa Page and their, kind of inappropriate back and forth, texts, emails, whatever. Yes, but understand something. If you really read carefully through the reporting on this binder, it's also chock full of sensitive reporting, again, from our allies, on Russia's interference with the election. So there may have been some people around Trump who said, this can't go out because it's going to make us look really bad. It's going to show Russia indeed interfered with the election, or tried to, as, by the way, Bob Mueller found in his report, as, by the way, the GOP-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee determined Russia did try to help Trump, and some of that inevitably has got to be in that binder.
Yeah. A couple of things you asked yesterday about, as you mentioned, should we be looking at a search warrant for Meadows? Is it part of Jack Smith's investigation? Have they rolled this into that or opened a new case or grand jury on Meadows? You said we've got to know what happened with this binder, more importantly, whether this was a mere accident or whether the intention was to hand it to Russia to expose U.S. intel sources and methods against Russia. This does have the feeling of some much bigger shoes to drop here, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've become so accustomed, Stephanie, and I'm responsible for it because I'm on TV all the time, but of knowing, and there's been way too many leaks, we tend to go, hey, how come we haven't heard about this? What's going on? When will we be briefed on this top secret investigation? I think there is a classified investigation into this. It would be labeled a leak or mishandling case. And I would not be surprised, with all the trouble that Meadows is in, if he's already been asked about this. And if indeed he destroyed it, gave it away, whatever, handled it sloppily, there's a crime for that. There's something that will cover that, whatever the heck happened to this thing.
Yeah. The other thing you tweeted about, just obviously in the threat environment we're in, Frank, you said the president's motorcade was parked when a civilian vehicle crashed into one of the official cars. Secret Service whisked Biden away as agents surrounded the suspect car at gunpoint. Biden unharmed he clearly was shocked. I guess the president saw this. I mean, again, we've heard Chris Wray talk about the threat environment and our violent right-wing extremist problem. This seems shocking, though, that they got that close to the president. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's an accident, but as you're referencing, it really doesn't matter, does it? Because whether it's an accident or not, it's a demonstration that you can actually make impact with the president's motorcade. We need to know more about this. The president, for those who haven't seen this, the president was outside of a vehicle, coming out of a building, about to enter his limo when a crash was heard, and it was down the line. All the cars involved in a motorcade. Somebody maybe just took a wrong turn and smashed into it. But the question is, was Biden safely whisked away? That language, by the way, is not mine. I repeated it from the reporting. But and people have also pointed out to me on social media, that doesn't look like a whisking away. It looks like people were stunned, and then they eventually got him in the car. So yes, I am concerned in this threat environment about whether or not Secret Service has appropriately, to match the threat level, ratcheted up their plans to protect Biden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we have some reasons to distrust Secret Service, with a lot of the reporting surrounding January 6th. So I think it's concerning. Speaking of January 6th, I just got to get your take on the president calling January 6th terrorists who have been convicted, who pled guilty, calling them hostages, when we currently have Americans being held hostage by Hamas.
Yeah, it's disgraceful. Talk about a guy who can't read the room. I don't know how many Jewish American voters, walked away from him in the last 24 hours with that comment. You have people whose lives have been lost in Israel. I don't know if you caught the 60 Minutes piece last night. A woman who was held hostage was interviewed. It was heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. She had to hand her baby to her husband because her husband ran faster. So he took the baby. Wow. They hid in a ditch. She got kidnapped. And it's a horror story. And we have a president who is analogizing the defendants who are locked up. By the way, the ones who are locked up are the ones that are deemed dangerous and are facing serious time. But he's calling them hostages, just like the Israeli and American Israeli hostages in Gaza right now. It's a disgrace. And one day they're patriots, another day they're hostages, another day he's taping a version of the national anthem with these prisoners. They're traitors. They're prisoners. They're criminals. They're not hostages.
Yeah.